Jordan Bohannon, Jared Stansbury. It's Jared and J-Bo on Iowa Everywhere. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Whoa. That was legit. I did not know what that was going to do. That was cool, though. Holy cow.
That gave me a little goosebumps on my
Yeah,
finger.
that was awesome. That was awesome. It's Jared and I feel like every time someone talks about this podcast, the order of our names flips. Right there, it was Jared and J-Bo. On our header, it's J-Bo and Jared. I don't know what the answer to this question is going to be, but apparently it's just going to flip every time that we ever talk about it. So
we got to figure it out. It's stressing me out. We got to figure this out. We got to nip it on the butt right away.
Yeah, we got to get to the bottom of it. And then we have to get some cohesive branding here where every time someone makes something, it's the same and not flipping back and forth. But either way, welcome to J-Bo and Jared here on the Iowa Everywhere Podcast Network. Of course, it's a big week. It's Cyhawk Week here in the state of Iowa. We'll talk a little bit about that. There's some other things I think that we want to talk about surrounding just Iowa and Iowa State football in general. And then, of course, we've got some other stories to cover here throughout the show. Jordan, how are you doing tonight? How are you doing this week? I felt like we got pretty good reception last week. It seems like you've made some inroads with the Cyclone fans, so that's a positive.
I'm chipping away over here. This is me all last 2 weeks, just chipping away. I mean, I felt really happy about our first show. I think we got a lot of good feedback, and like I keep saying, I think this thing could be huge. I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah, for sure, man. Let's dive into this game here coming up first. Oh, first we do need to shout out our friends at Prairie Meadows, who are the presenting sponsors of all of our Cyhawk discussion this week on Iowa Everywhere. Link up with the folks out there at Prairie Meadows. Get on the Caesar Sportsbook. Make your bets on the game. I'm sure they've got all kinds of great specials coming up this week. I'm sure it would be a really fun place to go and watch the game on Saturday. A lot of other games going on Saturday afternoon as well. So go check them out there at Prairie Meadows in Altoona. How do you feel coming into Cyhawk Week, man? Obviously, I think that it was not an overly encouraging day for you guys on Saturday.
Man, I don't know even what to say about both sides of the aisle here. I don't. This is probably the most anticipated, least anticipated football game ever for Cyhawk rivalry. I don't even know how to explain it. I really don't.
I think that it's just both teams match up really well, and no one is really talking about either one of them. So that's what kind of makes it exciting is it's just a bunch of different guys. It's like new people that you have recycled over year. Obviously Iowa State had Brock Purdy and all those guys these last couple years that had been through it. And now it's just a whole new cast of characters, and that kind of makes it fun. Like a bunch of new people are going to have an opportunity to put their stamp on the rivalry.
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't watch much of Iowa State last week, but it was tough to watch Iowa. I feel like there's just so much already emphasis put on the Iowa offense that it made it even worse that how they performed. But at the end of the day, I mean, I was somewhat shocked, but at the end of the day, that's what Kirk Ferentz has always been like. They've always been very defensively ordinated, or defensive dominated, and for them, I feel like to beat Iowa State this upcoming week, I think it comes down to punting again. I really do. Yeah. How they beat South Dakota State, that's how it came down to.
Yeah, I was going back through the last several years of Cyhawk games, and I got 3 years into it, and I was counting the number of times Iowa had started inside of Iowa State territory and scored a touchdown. And in something like 30 drives, they'd had like 12 times where they started in Iowa State territory and drove in and scored a touchdown. And like that's how big and important punting and turnovers are in this game, and whoever wins both of those battles is probably going to win the football game, which is really annoying. I'm not gonna lie to you. Playing against Iowa and having those be the two things that make the difference is super annoying.
Well, especially punting, you guys really had that tough go around. I forgot who was receiving the ball and who ran into who.
Oh man,
I always get the names mixed around, but that will probably live in Iowa State football history.
Well, and the crazy thing is it was pretty inconsequential too, like where Iowa State was going to have like 40 seconds to go and score to try and win the game, which I mean, I conceivably could have happened. I think that they were only down by a point. So it's like, you just need to get a field goal. But yeah, when that happened, it was just so deflating where it's like, man, not like this couldn't have gotten any worse than but somehow it did. Yeah, I think of that one. And then even last year, like Brock gets, they put Brock on the bench, brought in Hunter Deckers late in that game. He'd thrown 3 interceptions. Brees Hall had the fumble that got returned for a touchdown. It was just debilitating. And it was like all of the guys that you had gotten used to rooting for that had been so good for you. And then they're the ones that kind of end up laying the egg in the rivalry. And that was really, that was tough, man. I hate that. I hate this game. I'm not going to lie. I hate it. I hate when these two teams play each other.
It's gonna be fun though. I pretty much I feel like in the second half it's gonna be a night game too in Kinnick, so that's gonna be adding to the atmosphere. Those are always somewhat fun. I'm assuming actually it's 3:00. I think it's 3:00 kickoff, so it probably won't be night. But
it'll probably be the sun will be going down. It'll be nice. Here's one thing I will say: Iowa State played at 1 on Saturday. 1:00 p.m. is an elite kickoff time. I don't think it gets better than 1 p.m. because it's like 11 a.m. It's a little too early. Everybody's got to be there at the ass crack of dawn. 1 p.m. You can be there 10 o'clock. The game gets over around 5. You're back home. The sun's still up. It's magical. I don't think it gets better than that. But
I don't know those night Kinnick games. We would always have practice like the halftime of games for basketball. So we would or it would be like before the game. So we could never like experience really the true aspect of like tailgating and all that stuff like a normal college kid could do. But I do remember we went to the only game I had the opportunity to go. We had it was against Penn State. That's when they had Saquon Barkley.
Oh man!
And he leaped over. I forgot who he leaped over on the sideline. And that's when they also threw that touchdown pass to win the game at the end of the game that they caught in the end zone. It was unbelievable. Like it's just even though they lost, it was the coolest experience I've ever. I can't imagine like doing that, year after year, going to these night games. I just think that atmosphere, anytime the lights are on, on top of playing a really big team, it always adds stuff to it.
Yeah. So that day, I remember watching that game. I'd gone to Nebraska and Rutgers with one of my friends, and we'd been drinking all day, man. And
that's great too football.
Oh yeah, it was electric. But we went to Nebraska Rutgers, and all day we'd been sitting out in the sun. We were drunk, and we were gonna go meet up with my other friend at the rail yard in Lincoln, and we get up to him, and he's like, "Yo, we're watching the Iowa game. We're turning up right now, right here." And me and my other friend were just like, "Shit, dude! Like we've been sitting out in the sun all day," but he was just adamant, and we stood and watched that Iowa game. And by the end, everyone in the crowd in Lincoln was throwing their drinks in the air and all this stuff, going crazy when Iowa lost the game. And I was like, okay, I guess it was kind of worth it to stay out here. This was kind of fun. But yeah, that was a crazy game. All right, I do want to ask you some questions about some of the stuff that happened on Saturday, not directly related to the ins and outs of the football of it, but kind of the human aspect of the sport. Spencer Petras had a tough day on Saturday and heard all about it, I think, from the fans, and I think there's probably fans out there that would argue they're booing the coach or they're booing, the entire team or anything like that. As an athlete, as someone who has been, obviously you represented the University of Iowa and are really close to this situation. When you saw that, what was your reaction? What did you think?
It's a really good question, Jared. I think what I first think of is Spencer, because I'm actually pretty close to him and know him pretty well. He actually helped me with we kind of worked with each other with NIL last year and trying to get that passed. Worked on a state bill, so I got to know him really well last year actually. And so I know like off the field, he is a very genuine, good, kind-hearted dude. And a lot of people don't see obviously is what I saw off the field last year. So. That's always taken into effect when you see a guy like that. And I would imagine a lot of guys were booing him based off the performance he had. And, it's tough anytime you have a guy like that that's close and you want him to do well. But, it's almost like added to everything. I saw a really good argument on Twitter actually about this. And, at first I was like really pissed off at some fans that'd be doing that. And I totally understand, what their side is. They want to win the game. And there's a lot riding on these games, obviously. But they're talking about how NIL kind of progressed these last, especially these last few months. And Iowa and Iowa State, especially have these collectives that they push for so many months, the last couple of months, of giving these athletes money, all these boosters coming out and supporting these athletes at each of these schools. So it's almost like it's gotten to that point where it is kind of, we're not employees, but they're playing a sport and they're getting paid for it. And so I saw one of these guys' arguments saying that these guys are getting paid or asking for all this money for these last few months to go to these events, to get paid for playing football at Iowa, blah, blah, blah. So I honestly see that point of that side of the argument, because they're asking for all this money, so they should be playing up to their A game every single game. And I totally understand that. But I just think there's two sides to both stories. And I think I could definitely listen to both those arguments.
I think that it's hard to, like, I understand where someone is coming from when they want to make that argument and say, oh, it's holding people accountable. Like, I think that's what on some level people would try and argue. It's, we're holding them accountable for their performance. And if these people want to get paid and they want to get, then they're going to get treated like professional athletes. But like, the question I always come back to is like, who's holding these people accountable? What does booing do? Booing doesn't do anything. I don't think it does anything productive. In fact, I would say the odds that Spencer Petras was going to come out after getting booed and all of a sudden be a world beater and be like, and have it completely flipped his confidence and he completely changes his mindset, like that just doesn't seem very likely, in my mind. And that's where I feel like it's counterproductive, because you want to be supportive of your team and you want to be helping your team do well. But at the same time, they do something that you don't like. So now you're going to turn on them and jeer against them, and like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And then two, I don't understand like the infatuation some people have with like thinking that athletes need to be held accountable for things like by the media and people like that. I don't know, man. Like, it's a game, bro. Like, that's what I always come back to. And I'm just like, oh, why aren't you going at Matt Campbell for this? Or why aren't you going at, when Steve Brome was here, or when even now with TJ, like, why aren't you going at him for this? And I'm just like, I don't know, man, because I'm not like in the White House press briefing room. Like, I don't see a reason to be out here grilling people on these things, and I guess that's maybe where my mindset of it is different than what a fan would be. But I think when you see these people and like, you talk about, you have a friendship with Spencer, it's like, or you get to meet different people and like, you start to, like them. It's like, man, I think this guy's a good guy. You don't want to see them fail, like, I don't know. That's where it's difficult. A fan doesn't get that interaction where you start to build up a rapport with someone to where you support them in that same way, if that makes sense. Sorry, I kind of went on a rant there, but I was trying to connect the two thoughts.
No, you made a lot of good points. I really like with everything that went on with. First off, I guess there's two things before I bring up this point. I think going to a college football game should be fun. It should be enjoyable. It should not be something, just picking up back off what you're saying. It should not be something that's taken so seriously that you personally get upset by it and it affects your day. I understand you guys, a lot of these fans, they go and spend a lot of money, Iowa State fans, to go to these games, to, road trip with their families, to be there and experience that atmosphere. But at the end of the day, I mean, what are you truly going there for? It's not to hold, this college kid accountable that's dealing with so much. He's playing in front of 80,000 people, 60, I don't even know how many holds, 60, 70,000 people. He has to deal with millions of people on social media critiquing his game that are watching him on ESPN, on CBS, on ABC, all these national.
He's been a laughing stock the last 2 days since his QBR, the graphic came out with the 1.1 QBR. Like, people are making him into a joke, and that's just too bad, because there is the human element of it still, where it's like Spencer's going to be doing a lot of things for a long time where he will never be associated with playing quarterback for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and it's like, then these people will just be making jokes about it and stuff. Like, I feel bad about that,
Yeah. And I think it adds to the human aspect. Like he's not always going to be this Iowa quarterback, Spencer Petras. Like he's going to move on to something else in his life. But I feel like a lot of these people that are taking these games so seriously is they're always going to be referring to him as that Iowa quarterback that stunk for a few years or stunk for a couple games. Like they'll never let that go, and that's because they've held these games so personal. But the other point I wanted to make was also Jack Campbell, who came out in support for Spencer Petras and the Iowa team as a whole. I think that really shows how together the team is. Anytime you have any teammate backing anyone on the team, it can be very easily to critique guys and to get upset at people, especially of the storm of playing midseason and all the distractions around you. So I thought that was really cool to see, and also really cool. Kirk Ferentz backing him, 100% after the game too, and before the games, he has complete confidence in him. He's not tearing anyone down. How many times we see college coaches tearing their own players down, or players tearing other players down? I think that speaks volumes to where the team is at, chemistry wise.
Well, I think it's kind of a perfect example of that. We were talking right before we started. I wasn't even going to bring this up, but Brian Kelly, we were talking about him right before we got started, and he had the quote at halftime the other night where it's like, well, we can't play any worse, but this is my first game, so I guess I don't know. And I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, man, like, what does that, I'm in the media, so it's like I want people to be interesting at the end of the day. Like if you're interesting, it makes my job more fun. But it's like sometimes I just sit there and wonder why these people who are supposed to be the leaders, and the ones that are supposed to be held accountable for things, like they're not the one. Like they'll answer a question and they'll throw someone under the bus, and it's always Scott Frost does this too all the time. He's always throwing people under the bus for different things. And I just sit there and it's like, man, this is why your team doesn't win. Like this is why because you don't even hold yourself accountable, let alone holding your team accountable and holding people on your team. And that's again, all like you said, I'll give Jack Campbell credit for that. I'll give Kirk Ferentz credit for that. I'll be honest, as an analyst, I don't know if I would want to keep putting Spencer Petras back out there. Like that was my thing that I thought even during the game on Saturday that, from a pure confidence standpoint, like to keep putting him out there with some of the struggles he was having. And I don't know what they've got with Alex Padilla and stuff like that, but it's just, there comes a point where I feel like there's a line between like your coach having the utmost confidence in you and having, all the trust in you that they can possibly have, but then also not putting you in positions to succeed, and that's like where I feel like I don't know. That was where I felt like there could be a dichotomy there in what was happening. I don't know. I would be interested in your opinion on that, but that was my perspective as an outsider, I suppose.
See, my thing is Spencer Petras and Kirk Ferentz backing him after this offseason and after how last year went with him getting benched and Padilla coming in. There must be, honestly, it's not like Kirk Ferentz is a stupid coach. He doesn't know he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, he's one of the longest tenure coaches in Iowa history. If not, I think he is maybe the longest. He goes back all the way to when my dad would play quarterback he was on the staff, one of his first years in 82 Rose Bowl. Like he has so much experience at this Big Ten Power 5 conference level that there must be something that is reasoning that Spencer Petras is on the field over no one else. Like he's a dumb coach. That's what I always say to like anyone that always, my friends that are giving him hate or something for not putting the best players on the field. It's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he does know what he's doing. So
and his job's on the line too. Exactly. I mean, like Kirk Ferentz isn't going to get fired. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, Brian Ferentz probably isn't going to get fired at this point either. So it's like their jobs are still on the line, and they're still the ones that have to be able to put a good team out there. And if they felt like it was counterproductive to what was going to be good for the team, I mean, and then they were still actively doing it, then that's where you have to have a conversation of like, is Kirk Ferentz the right guy to be the head coach? But like, I don't think that he would do that. He's got too long of a track record he deserves some benefit of the doubt on some level, and I know that even if it has been several years, like there is some level of benefit of the doubt. I don't know. It would not shock me at all if that offense came out and was fucking awesome on Saturday. Like, I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm almost half expecting it.
Is that what I would say fans are like? Well, here's the thing. Like, either maybe Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz are just geniuses. They just had the worst game possible. Because how are you going to scout? How are you going to scout them? You're the defense of Iowa State. Like, what are you watching for film? There's nothing to watch. They didn't have an offense game.
Well, I mean, I feel like at the same time, this is from my perspective. If I'm Iowa State or if I'm any team playing them, I'm sitting there. I'm like, we're putting 9 people in the box until Spencer Petras proves that he can make a throw to somebody. And if
Mhm.
he can't prove that he can make a throw to somebody, then like we're going to stand up here in the box. We're going to send a bunch of heat at him every single time that he drops back to pass, and we're going to clog up everything for the run game. And I think if Iowa State does that, I think Iowa State is going to win the game. I think if they do that and they stay aggressive on offense, I think that they will win
Well,
because
the
but
thing is, they don't have like the great offensive line either at Iowa. They last year they struggled with it. This year you saw, let's not put it all on Spencer Petras. He didn't have the
oh
best game,
yeah,
but the
he
offensive
also didn't
line
have
at
his
Iowa,
receivers. Yeah,
yeah,
or his receivers.
he doesn't
Yeah.
have any time to throw to anyone. On top of who's he going to throw to? It's just it's a two-way. I feel like it's a two-way streak too, because you got to hold the offensive line accountable. You got to protect your quarterback. You got to have time for him to make a decision. It's not like he has a terrible arm. He's overthrowing. He has a capable arm. You just got to feel like a little more time to make a throw.
Yeah, some accuracy, like have some time. Or if you're not immediately having someone banging you in the chin, you can step back and make a throw and be a little more calm. I think that, it just looked fast for him. Like he made some of
Yeah.
those throws. Things just looked really fast. And I think anybody who's been an athlete has been in a situation where they've been in a game and it's like all of a sudden things feel like they're moving a million miles an hour. Like I remember, this I was playing Division 3. It's a lot different than playing in the, playing Division 1
Still
college
college
football.
though. It's still a
Yeah,
different
but
level.
that first time you go up that level and you're playing in a college game and it's like, holy shit, man. Like everything you're
Yeah.
doing is almost on instinct. Like it's not about being a good player or anything like that. You're just like out there trying to survive on some level, and that's where, he's a veteran. So,
That
things
shouldn't
can,
happen. Yeah, he
yes,
should.
it shouldn't happen. But at the
Yeah.
same time, things can spiral on you. And all of a sudden you're in a scenario where it's like, man, you just lose control of what's going on and you stop being able to perform at the level you need to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think the emphasis should be, I think Spencer Petras he's had capable games. It's not like it's not there. I think the emphasis should be on the offensive line heavily this week, and I'm sure that's what they're doing. Heavily supporting Spencer Petras to get his confidence back, to make that quick slant pass that Kirk Ferentz is known for, those 5-yard passes, and get his confidence back to be able to have that breakout game that he's done it before. I think it's just his confidence level is has to be at an all-time high or all-time low after what just happened.
All right, let me ask you this: who you picking to win? What's your prediction?
I mean, I can't pick Iowa State, but I'm not confident on Iowa. That's the thing. The only
Yeah.
thing that is supporting Iowa is that Iowa. So I not unbiased, as much as unbiased I can be. I'm going with Iowa just because it's at
As
Iowa.
unbiased as I can be, but I have to pick Iowa.
I do. I'm not going to come out here and say, yeah, I think Iowa State's going
No,
to
I
win.
know. I get it. Yeah, no, I get it.
It's
I
tough though, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. For some reason I've got a confidence that Iowa State's going to win, but that's probably a bad thing. Like that's kind of all day I've been like, man, I almost feel too confident, So we'll
When's the
see.
last
But
time Iowa State won at Kinnick? Do you have the
the
stat on
last
that?
time they won, 2014.
20. That was still about 10 years ago. 9 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I've never covered the team while they beat Iowa.
Are you
In my career.
the unlucky one then? Or is that why they haven't beat Iowa yet?
Well, I hope not. I hope that's not why. I do think that they would have played a good game in 2020 when COVID canceled it. That probably would have been a good one. So
Oh yeah, I forgot about
that
that.
kind of threw a wrench into it. And that one would have been in Kinnick too. So that would have been an interesting game. But no, I don't think I'm unlucky.
Because they
There's
were
been some
good.
really weird games during this stretch though. Like they went to the one that was in overtime where
Yep.
it was all back and forth. Akram Wadley had the long run at the end to force
Mhm.
overtime. There was the game with the 3 hours of rain delays.
Oh yeah, that was at
In
Iowa State, wasn't it?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
2019, that game was crazy too. There was a rain delay in the middle of the first drive of the game. And
Mm.
it was like everything was downhill from there. But no, I think it should be a fun game. I hate going to Iowa City. I'll be over there on Saturday.
Oh, you are going?
Yeah, I'm making the trek. I feel like I'm going to the Lions Den every time that I have to go over there,
Dude,
man.
just imagine as much as you feel like, imagine if I would go to Ames and say, I think you're gonna be okay. It could be worse. It could be worse Lions dens.
Who do you think had it tougher last year? You coming into Ames or Chris Beard going to Lubbock to play at
Oh,
Texas Tech?
that's a tough one. I don't know, man. It was tough I liked it because I like being in the atmosphere. So I enjoyed that. But having my family there,
that part wasn't as fun.
no. We had to make sure there's extra support there for them.
Yeah, well,
But
I
I'm
would like to
okay.
think no one would do that, but I understand the concern too at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. It was tough, especially I never really talk about it, but especially what happened downtown Iowa City with the ex Iowa State football player. It was just tough for Iowa was okay, but knowing my mom being the
Right.
sweetheart is, I told him just not to come because I think it was going to be the best option, and I ended up getting the F Bohannon chant the whole game, but I
Yeah.
loved it. If I could do it all over again, I would go back and relive that game, even though we lost.
It was pretty crazy, man. That was a pretty crazy one.
Were
That
you
was as
chanting?
angry.
Were you
Oh
chanting? Yeah.
no, I wasn't chanting. I was
Oh,
sitting
I
on
don't
press
know.
row, man. I'm not gonna be up there chanting on press row. Get
Jared's
outta here.
back there clapping.
Yeah. I'm applauding them. I'm rooting. I'm cheering them on. No, that game was fun. That was as angry of a Hilton Coliseum crowd as I can remember. The only time that they have the angry crowds is like when Kansas comes. Everybody hates Bill Self, so they all get angry when Bill Self comes. But you brought the anger out of them, so kudos to you for doing that, I guess.
Dude, I remember walking out of the tunnel after like the very first time
I went out on the court early to see when you walked down the court because I knew that it would be like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so funny. My teammates were like laughing, and I was glad we got some enjoyment out of that. I don't know. I feel like some of the younger teammates on my team were a little like not like frazzled, but they're a little hesitant that game. So I think I don't know. I feel like the kind of the distraction around me kind of I don't know how to explain it. It was just a bizarre game. Like looking back on it.
And two, Iowa State had one of those teams that, like, if you were a little bit hesitant, they were going to take advantage of that,
Yep.
and just with the guy, I mean, with IZB and,
Mhm.
even Tyrese, just like the physicality. And like, I know that those were guys. It's like, we're coming at you,
And of
Yeah.
course, I get fucking my second foul. I didn't even all right. For only thing I'll say about this game,
All right, here we go.
I'm getting literally. The guys guarding me could have went to jail for what they're doing on me, and I get two little ticky tack, one charge foul because I think Gabe Kalsher flopped. And then the next time down, he backed me down and missed a fadeaway jumper, and they said I slapped him on the arm. And just like that, I had to sit for 12 minutes of the first half. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I was so heated at the refs. But again, the refs were throughout college basketball, that was the worst reffing job they had across the board. I will live to
That
this
game
day.
was?
No, like refs across the board in college basketball last year. They had a really bad year. They had a really bad year.
Horrible year. Yeah.
They needed to all come together and release a statement apologizing for all the teams they fucked over.
How much of like just the general Big 12 season did you get a chance to watch? Any of it?
It was hard to watch.
Yeah, dude, it was impossible to watch
You
some of
couldn't
those
watch
nights.
it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it was every team too. It's
Not
not
even
like
saying it was
one
bad
game.
basketball. Like it was just
No.
it was poorly officiated.
Yeah, it was basketball at like its most I don't even know, most just like aggressive level that it could possibly be, of being able to grab people and inhibit people on cuts and things
Yeah.
like that. And that, to me, like, I love a lot of things about college basketball and the way that college basketball is constructed compared to the NBA, but there has to be something done to limit some of the physicality of which they're allowed to play the game, because it turns every game into a rock fight instead of being and then all of a sudden you get to the NCAA tournament, and NCAA tournament, you don't know how people are going to officiate games. So then, like, someone like Texas Tech or West Virginia back in the day, they could play a whole game and they're able to play the way that they normally play. And then all of a sudden it's an NCAA tournament, you're playing for a national championship, and you can't play that way anymore,
Yeah.
So it's unfair on both sides, where it's like teams that don't normally play that way come in your league and they try and play against you with your officials, and it's going to be a bad night. But then when they've got to do that, it's the same way,
Yeah, I truly believe that's why the Big Ten strong. I'm not making any excuses for the Big Ten. We should be able to do a lot better in the NCAA tournament than what we've been doing. But I honestly think reffing and officiating has been a big cause of that because one, exactly what you just said, Jared. There is different ways they call each game. It is in each of the three refs all call it differently. So you never know how they're going to call it. One half could be totally different than the second half. And then you get in these NCAA tournament games, you don't know what to expect. I mean, you look in the national championship game usually, they're like a slugfest. There's nothing called. There's easy foul calls that should be called. You're bumping cutters, like stuff that is not legal in basketball that you get away with. You look at like a team like Illinois, how dominant they were these last 2 years in the Big Ten. And they struggle in the NCAA tournament because they can't play the way they play in the Big Ten because I mean, they all just grab, shove you, push you. Like they get away with all that because they can't. This is literally what they'll say that they do so much of it. The rest will. I swear to God, this is what they would say. They do it every possession, so we can't call it every possession. I've heard that from a ref say that to Coach McCaffrey before, and I'm standing there next to him. I'm like, how the hell is that an argument saying you just because they're foul every time down the court, they're not going to call it?
Well, and it's just like in football when people are like, there's holding on every play. How can they call it on every play? You know,
well, just call it. Like, don't let them get away. Like,
don't let them get away with it from the very beginning, and then it doesn't become an issue.
Exactly.
If you call fouls on them right at the beginning of the game, they're not going to play that way the whole game. Like that's the point. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, be honest here. Who's one official that walks in on a given night, and you lean back, you see him come in. He's got his black coat on. He's jogging up and down, getting his stretches in. And you're like, oh shit, we're in for a long night.
Paul Zelch. Paul Zelch. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
I don't know.
He is. He teed me up on senior night.
Okay.
I got literally. I wish we could pull up the highlights. I literally got the felony should have been called on this guy. Tackle to the ground on a 3-pointer, and I never. I think this is my first technical ever in my entire life. I've never gotten a technical before. And I just screamed at the official, call that. I didn't even say F. I didn't say anything. I just said, call that. He teed me up right away. But he teed up.
Had he been bad before that, or was it just that one night that he was having a bad day or something like that?
He's had
some bad nights
wise,
before.
he has it out against Iowa. I don't know. I think he bets against Iowa.
Have you watched the Tim Donaghy
documentary?
Dude. Oh man,
that happens way more than people say. I don't care what anyone says. This happens all the time.
I feel like it could in college basketball with how many officials there are too. There's so many guys that are out there that could do some stuff like that, and how would they ever get caught? Especially now with having the apps and things like that, different people could make bets for people and it's so much easier to get around those things. I feel like that's something that has not been discussed enough about legalizing sports betting is how easily some of these people could be influenced.
Dude, I'll take this to my grave. College officiating is
it's probably a bad time to talk about this with Prairie Meadows jumping on. We don't think any of our great folks at Prairie Meadows are involved in point shaving with college basketball. We're speaking hypothetically completely.
All of the top VIP members from Prairie Meadows are all college officials.
Oh, man.
Dude, no, honestly though, shout out Prairie Meadows, but I honestly think I'll take this to my grave. College officiating is single-handedly the most corrupt profession of all professions.
Oh, man, I think I could probably think of a few that maybe
Nope.
You're convinced.
Most
of those guys don't even do it for a full-time job either. It's just like they just.
That's what I'm saying. It's corrupt.
Yeah.
We had a captain of Fort Lauderdale Police as one of our Big Ten officials. Jared, tell me how we can have a captain of a Florida police station as our Big Ten official. Love the guy. He's one of my favorite refs, but there's something a little corrupt about this.
I mean, there's even, John Higgins, he's like a roofer, like he does roofs or something like that. But man, Hollywood Higgins is one of the best in the business. Like no one can tell me that he's not.
You got me on a topic I shouldn't be talking about, but yeah,
I was just saying we did not plan on talking about this. All of a sudden, you got me ranting about Big 12 basketball officiating.
The thing is, I've seen it firsthand of how corrupt it can be. I've seen it. I know it's corrupt.
What's one game you think that the officials they prevented you from winning because they had the fix was in? Be honest. Come on, let's hear it. What game was the fix in?
I mean, I have to think back. I played so many damn games, Jared.
Well, that's true. Yeah, 7 years of memories here to think through.
If I were to look back at games I would say 20% of the only going off losses. I would say 20% of the games that I've lost has been fixed by the officials.
How many games do you think you guys lost in your career? Probably like what? You played what, 6 years? Probably like 50, 55,
I've
something like that.
played like what 55, 60 games, I think.
Holy shit,
100,
dude.
we've
That's so
lost.
many college basketball games, bro. That's
That's
like
what I'm
2 full
saying.
seasons of
But
NBA of an
it's
NBA
not.
season.
It's Jared. It's not like I'm saying this as zero college basketball experience. Like
No,
I've
I
seen
believe you.
it.
I was
I've
gonna
seen
say
what
now
these.
once you said that many games, that's a lot. Like even 20% of your losses wouldn't be that many games. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen officials like how they talk to these coaches. Like okay, we're gonna go rewind for a second. You got me all heated up on this.
No, I got you. Go do your thing, bro.
You're gonna hear me out.
No, I'm hearing you out, bro. I believe you. I'm listening.
Okay, so 2 years ago during the COVID Big Ten tournament, right? We played.
Was that the year you stole the mat from the NCAA
No,
tournament?
that was like 8 years before that.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. Do you remember when Juwan Howard literally threatened?
Oh yes, yeah,
he threatened to kill Coach Sturgeon. Threatened to kill him.
yeah.
Literally, first off, how is that not like? How do you not charge for that? Like you literally are. I think did he swing at him? I don't even remember what happened.
I can't even remember exactly what happened.
I think that was
thought he
last
just
year.
like he walked down the court at him or something. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that reminded me of the Juwan Howard the next year after that.
Well, as I say, Juwan has now built up a little bit of a track record of some of these things at this point. So.
Right, but so Coach McCaffrey.
I still got a lot of respect for Juwan Howard, though. I do want to say that.
No, I love Juwan Howard. Coach. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he does stuff like that. Coach Gard criticized the officials during the Big Ten tournament. If Coach I'm sticking up with Coach McCaffrey. Yes, I'm going to be biased because I played with him for 25 years. He says one thing, he gets fined. Like he had that multiple times in his career. I honestly think there's some like sort of quirk in the officiating crew and the head of officials that I don't know. I have no idea how it exactly works behind the scenes with the Big Ten.
I'm sure people do build up a reputation because Coach McCaffrey's been there a long time. You know, he's okay. So I'm sure that they do get told to officiate people in certain ways, but I do understand where you're saying there is a double standard for certain people. Like I certainly think that is fair. Yeah.
But okay, Juwan Howard, he threatened to kill Coach Sturgeon. Nothing happened. He didn't get anything. He's suspended from any games. Nothing.
Dude, but think come on, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm not done.
How many times have you heard someone on a basketball court, I'm going to kill you, bro? Come on.
Not literally. He literally said he was going to kill him. Like, he had that look in his eye. You saw how he reacted.
He had the craziest look in his eyes. At one point he said, let's get it on.
I was talking about the fight. No, okay, but think about building up the track record. The next year, he literally had a coach.
Yeah.
And he got suspended. Like what? He didn't get suspended the rest of the year.
He did get suspended for the rest of the season, didn't he?
The regular season, he was coaching.
Yeah, they came back in the tournament. Yeah, he came back in the tournament. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think
that's
there's
tough, dude. I didn't know you held such animosity towards the Big Ten officials. Dude, yes. But I guess it's understandable. I mean,
okay, and you'll feel this one. I'm ranting. I know. I'm sorry, all the Iowa State fans.
No, you're good. You're good. Do your thing, dude.
I just had to get this off my chest, and you guys all the Iowa State fans will hear me out on this one too, especially you.
Oh, Jared. We hate the officials, dude. I love hearing you say this because it's fuck officials forever, dude. Like, exactly. That's my motto forever.
And I do want to say before I say this last thing that it's a really hard job. Don't get me wrong, but it is very doable for them to make the right calls. But anyway. Brad Davidson, you guys played against him in the Big Ten tournament. Great guy off the floor. I don't know what gets him on the court, but dude, you guys saw firsthand playing against him in Iowa State. We literally had a sit down with the Big Ten officials every single year. He comes into every Big Ten school. He sits down. He talks to us about rules of emphasis, rule changes, all the stuff, nuances behind the game of basketball, how they're being officiated, whatnot. And they talk about marked guys. He literally said Anthony Cowan, I don't know if you remember him. He was big onto like running into the secondary defender and falling down and throw up a layup. He would get a foul call all the time. So they changed that rule on verticality now where you have to go straight up. So he was a marked guy that year. Then Brad Davidson had all these issues with him hitting people in the nuts. Like he was elbowing people. There's that clip of him putting his foot under Jordan Murphy, a very great basketball player in Minnesota. And he rolled his ankle on him. Like, it was blatantly obvious.
He's a menace, like, to the degree of it being like this is a risk for people
Exactly.
at times. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But long story short, the reason why I'm saying this is because, going full circle, the head of officials literally came out and told us and said that Brad Davis is the mark guy this year. He can't get away with all the, hook and hold stuff. Like, there's rules and emphasis put in just because of him. There is a huge issue with him playing Iowa. He had a bunch of stuff along the way when he played against us. And I don't remember exactly what to degree that when we played him this past year, but it happened again. And we talked about in the post press conference. And I said that Rick Boyages, the head of Big Ten officials, came into us and said he was a mark guy. How does he get away with all this? And then he comes out and says he never said that. So that's just what I'm saying. It's so corrupt in the back end because I know exactly what happens.
Man, I didn't know they did that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how long does someone have to be in the league before it's like, this guy's a marked guy? Like, you have to have a big time, like, you really have to build it up, before they're like, we're going to change the interpretation of the rules to take away this thing that you're doing. That's a problem.
I don't know, Jared. I don't know the exact degree of what it has to happen, but I just know, I'm not, why would I lie about that? Like, it's pretty obvious He should be a marked guy in the league.
There's very few times. I don't usually sit down on the floor when I cover games. I try and sit up on the concourse because I like to see the floor from above. But that game I did sit right on the floor, that Wisconsin game. It's very rare that I sit there and I watch the way someone acts on a basketball court. Like you said, Brad Davison might be a great guy. I don't know Brad Davison. Yeah. I've never interacted with him in my life. But sitting right there watching the way that he would, like, the things that he would do on the court sometimes and the way he would talk to the officials and things like that, I was like, man, like, you're like, this is like embarrassing, bro. Like, if he was on my team, I would be like, bro, shut the hell up. Just shut up. Stop talking to the refs. Stop doing all of these things. Just play the game, Yeah. Like, that would drive me crazy. Someone that is complaining about the level of things that he does. And it's always happening. That would drive me nuts. Oh.
But stuff like that happens. Like, these players, they get called a certain way. Like Kofi Coburn, he got away with so much. He also got fouled a ton that they never called because he was so much bigger than everyone. Didn't look like a foul. But
Kofi's a dog, dude. I love watching him play.
Very great player. Yeah,
his battles with Luka were awesome.
Yeah, always. That was really fun to watch him go at it. But man, like, the things that it's just so backwards how they call one game one night and then the next night. And then the other thing, Jared, is with the officiating, they ref 3 to 4 games a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're traveling to Penn State, then they're coming to Iowa, then they're going to Michigan State. Like, tell me they're 45, 50-year-old guys that are suited to ref 3 to 4 high-level college basketball games a week.
Right, because you got to be up there as an athlete, too, to get up and down with all these guys.
Yeah.
Like, man, it's no joke. Man, I think we really got to the bottom of something there.
We went in on the
that was not expected at all to have that entire discussion. That was a good conversation, though, I think. All right, let's kind of shift gears to some of these other stories. We were talking earlier about holding people accountable for their mistakes in college athletics. Perfect story came out today. Ed Orgeron met with I think it was called the Little Rock Touchdown Club. I have no idea what the Little Rock Touchdown Club is. I'm going to guess that they probably support the University of Arkansas football program. But he was talking, they're giving some sort of talk, and he went on this tangent, quote, "I was so grateful for my time with LSU. That was my opportunity. Coaches have a shelf. Some coaches have 50 years. Some have 12. I had 6. Good. I got to tell you, we had a meeting. They said, Coach, things are not going well. Well, no shit. Ray Charles can see that, brother. They were good. Scott Woodward is a friend of mine. Really a lot of respect for the way they handled me." This is the money portion of this quote. They said, "Coach, you got $17.1 million left on your contract. We're going to give it to you." And then he said, "I said, what time do you want me to leave and what door do you want me to go out of, brother?" Man, I talk about holding people accountable. Coach O's program really slipped off. Fell on some tough times, had to make a change. Here's $17.1 million for you as we walk out the door, my man.
You know what's crazy, Jared? He's getting paid that much money to not coach.
Yeah.
That always blows my mind.
He doesn't even have to. Like, if he never wanted to coach again, Coach O could go be on TV and be good for the rest of his life on top of that $17.1 million because he'd make a lot of money doing TV too. So
I think he built like a huge like personality like aura about himself too that a lot of people loved. I think like he's like I don't know what the Brian Kelly, they literally went like the opposite of what they had
Mhm.
before with him. I feel like with
Well, it's like
personality.
yeah, it's like when Nebraska had Bo Pelini, they hired Mike Riley, who was just like he was like everybody's grandpa, you
Yeah.
know? It's like they went from the fiery guy to the old guy that was like gonna make everybody happy. No,
The
he
old
definitely
guy
has
that
he
would make
built
everyone happy.
well, and he didn't make anybody happy, so that was unfortunate. But no, Coach O definitely has that brand, and forever, like that 2019 LSU team will be remembered forever. That was probably one of the best college football teams I've ever seen in my life. They played against Alabama, they're playing against Clemson, and they're going into games, and you're like, man, nobody's gonna touch them. Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
can beat them. So he can live off that forever. That he had that one team and had his good shelf life of 6 years, according to him, which I think is maybe a little bit generous. But at least he got his 17.1 million. All right, we've got a couple. This is another one that's not quite the same. This was a funny tweet that came out the other night after Texas's win over Louisiana Monroe. Quinn Ewers, the new starting quarterback at Texas, said, "How did I get towed during the game?" This is actually really funny because I think a couple weeks ago, didn't the NCAA say that the universities could start paying for parking tickets for student athletes?
Yeah, they did.
Do you think the University of Texas paid to get Quinn Ewers' car back?
How does this even happen? My thing is I don't even know how to go about this story. Like it
No,
is
because how'd he
hilarious.
drive to the game? It's not like he didn't drive to the game. He had to have rode the bus there. Where'd you leave your car that it's going to get towed?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the layout is for the campus. This is a mystery now that I think of it. I
I
would
want to know.
imagine.
I want to know if Texas paid to get his car back. Like that's the biggest thing that I think is at the bottom of this. It's so funny.
Well, it's just the fact that you're playing in front of, I don't know what their fans hold, but like
100,000 at least.
100,000 fans, and all this money is just going around you, and you just got your car towed during the game.
You brought the win home. Well, and to make it even worse, it's like, oh man, we got the win over Louisiana Monroe. Who do we got next week? Oh, we got to play Alabama. Name my
Is that
car
who they
got towed.
play?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
And his car got towed. Not only did his car get towed, but he's got to face Will Anderson on Saturday. That ain't gonna be very fun.
What was his stats? Do you have that up? Did he have a good game?
Quinn Ewers. Yeah, he did have a pretty good game. He wasn't. I mean, he didn't like blow the. He didn't blow the doors off it, but I think he had 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, QBR 72.4. We've
Good.
learned how good the 72.4 is now. I had no idea how that entire system worked, but
How does
apparently that's pretty
1.1
good.
even happen?
Yeah, that I don't know how that mathematically is possible.
It's got to be an outlier.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably what the people at ESPN are like. We don't know how this happened. We're just gonna put it down. If this ever happens again, we'll be shocked.
All the statisticians are fumbling papers in the background, like making sure all the numbers are correct after they see the final tally.
I just imagine too, there's a coach out there who's like really just really upbeat about everything, and he goes into practice on Sunday or into film on Sunday. He's like, "Hey, fellas, there's nowhere to go but up. There's nowhere to go but up." And it's like the most demeaning, passive aggressive way to try and be like positive about the team. But you're also like, I mean, yeah, I guess you're right, coach. Like there is nowhere to go but up. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think Coach Ferentz said? Brian Ferentz said to the offense after, like, they're watching film on Monday. What do you think his first words were?
I guess I don't know them like well enough to be able to really guess, but I don't envision them being super fiery people I mean, maybe Brian, I could see maybe Brian being pretty fiery in the film room, but I mean, I think too that if you're a coach, don't you look at that and everybody there knows how bad it was? Do you really need to go in there and be a jackass and like go off on everybody and hammer that home? That's one of those things. Everyone that walks in the film room knows that it sucked,
Yeah.
It's like we don't even need to have the people yelling at us. I don't know.
I do have a quick story. I remember we lost to Purdue by like 35 at home. Like they had Carson Edwards, like Thompson, Vincent Edwards, I think was on the team. They had some dogs on their team, and they hit like 18 3-pointers in our home court, and we lost by like 37 that year. And I remember we come to practice and watch film, or we always watch film after the games, right before practice the next day. So we all get in the film and we're like, fuck, this is gonna be the worst film session ever. Like, he's just gonna be chewing everyone out. Like, this is gonna be miserable. He walks in and we're all just like on the edge of our seats. Coach McCaffrey walks in with his laser pointer. He goes, all right, that was really bad. We're going to move on. And we're all just like, what? What just happened? Like, we just got 40 McNugget meal, barbecue sauce in the bag, and he's not even going to talk about it. It was unbelievable.
He Jedi mind tricked you.
I was.
Did you guys come out and play well the next time?
I don't remember. I think that was our 14 and 19 year, so probably not.
Fair enough. I was gonna say I'll look it up, but I'm sure it would be pretty easy to find. But no, that's funny. All right. Enough of the enough with that. All right, we got two. I think we've got a couple kind of nominees here for Dumbass of the Week. The first one is one that you sent me. A truly unbelievable story. A Sioux Falls man. A Sioux Falls man was arrested last Wednesday after he was attempting to rob a bank. He was taken into custody before he even had a chance to leave the scene of the crime, which, respect to the people that were able to follow their protocol within that bank. According to Dakota News Now, the suspect walked into the bank shortly before 11 a.m. that morning, claiming to have both a gun and a bomb, and announced that he intended to rob the financial institution. One of the bank's employees was able to quickly send a silent alarm to law enforcement, notifying that a robbery was underway. While inside the bank, the suspect was able to load up a backpack he was carrying with some cash, and proceeded to ask a customer inside the bank for keys to their car. That little getaway plan didn't go quite as expected, as there were just enough delays throughout the entire process to allow law enforcement officers to arrive at the scene. All right, first question here. Who the hell is robbing a bank in 2022? Like, what is the psychology that goes into the decision to rob a bank in a time where not only are they probably going to catch you before you even can get away, but two, they're going to easily identify you afterwards, even if you think that you got away with it. What do you think this guy was thinking when he walked into that bank in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and was like, yeah, I'm here for the money?
I've never heard of any story. I don't even know how to go about this, because I haven't heard a story of a bank robbery being successful in the last decade. Like, has it happened?
No one
does this anymore.
Aware of. No.
Grand Theft Auto, maybe.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, I'm sure they're always robbing banks on there. But no, I haven't heard of a successful bank robbery, and I have no idea when the last one would have been. But then it's like, all of a sudden these people think they're Jesse James or something. They're going to walk in like it's the Wild West and they're going to rob the bank. Like, that's not how it works, man. I don't think you're just making a bad decision. You're just making a bad decision that's probably going to cost you a lot of time in your life. This is a very dumbass move to think that you're going to rob the bank, let alone be able to get away with it. And to escalate it, you say you have a bomb too. Like, that just takes it to a whole other level of seriousness. Like, I don't understand. I don't get it. Did you think that you were going to get away with it?
I have no words for this one. I don't even think banks carry money, like a lot of money anymore, do they? Like, in their
probably
vaults?
Not enough for it to be worth it to try and rob it.
And say you have a bomb.
Yeah, no, definitely not enough then. Because then you're bordering, it's like terroristic threats and stuff like that. Like, you're going into a whole nother level of the law at that point. Yeah, that guy's a dumbass. All right. This is another one. I'm not 100% sure where this came from. It looks like it's somewhere in Iowa, but it says the headline is 2 men arrested after reported fight in restroom at local high school football game. It says 2 men have been arrested after a reported fight inside a restroom at a local high school football game. According to Washington County Dispatch records, just after 8 p.m. Friday night, a caller reported being attacked in the men's room at the Highland versus Columbus game on Vine Avenue. The victim was not injured and reported the suspect had likely fled towards Riverside. What prompts a fight in the bathroom at the high school football game?
Were they opponents of both teams?
I would assume so. I feel like that's probably safe. But like, how do you start a fight in the bathroom? You
There
see
has to
this
be some
guy and it's
alcohol
like,
involved.
he's at the urinal and you're like, hey, we're
I'm gonna
throwing
fight
down.
you.
I'm fighting you right here over a high school football game. That one of the teams won 55-0.
Have you seen Get Hard with Will Ferrell and Kevin
Yeah,
Hart?
yeah.
It's like when Will Ferrell is like coming up to that guy in the park. He's like, "I'm gonna fight you." I feel like I'm imagining that's how it happened. And the guy's just sitting. He's like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Right. The person who got attacked is like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, what are you talking about? That's what my reaction would. And if anyone ever wanted to fight me, my reaction would be, "What are you talking about, man? Why are you like? Why do you want to fight me?"
Just go the other way.
Yeah,
Go,
this is
go
not
watch
how
your
we.
son play.
Yeah, go watch the football game. Like come on, man. Like, what is the point of us fighting in this bathroom right now?
Was it at halftime? Did it say?
It did. No, it just says at 8 p.m. It doesn't say halftime specifically. So I don't know. For some reason, these guys both just happen to be in the bathroom at the same time. This appears to be in Eastern Iowa. The ads on here for Coralville, so I would assume that it's somewhere over in that area around Iowa City. I don't know. You guys got weird stuff going on over there, I guess.
We need
Fighting
to
in
get
the
those guys on
bathroom
the
at
show. Those guys on the show. Talk through it.
Oh man, we just need to work this out, fellas. It's
so
okay.
We can mediate it between
Right.
the two of us.
All right, this last one. We came up with a new thing. It's I don't know if we'll be able to find one every week, but there's always stuff that's being stolen. It's going to be our black market item of the week. People are stealing things in mass, just all kinds of random stuff. I saw last week there was somebody that stole a bunch of seafood. This week in Iowa, someone stole $100,000 worth of pork from an Iowa pork packaging plant. This story from the Des Moines Register says 3 semi-trailers worth of pork product were stolen from an Ottumwa plant Thursday, totaling over $100,000 in stolen meat. Police believe the semi was used to steal 3 semi-trailers that were filled with over $100,000 in pork product ready to be distributed. Authorities recovered 2 of the stolen trailers at the Black Hawk River access in Ottumwa. The last trailer was found in Wapello County near the intersection of 87th Street and 170th Street or Avenue. All the pork product had been removed. So not only have they did find 2 of the trailers, they have not found the pork product. If your local neighborhood pork dealer looks like he's on the up, then call your local authorities. We might have some questions to ask him about the pork product stolen from Ottumwa.
$100,000. That is insane worth of pork.
And for him to be able to ditch the 2 trailers too, that tells me he had a plan. He had a plan of what he was going to do to get this pork and how he was going to get it out of there and do it undetected.
See, this is a guy I can see pull off a bank robbery, and I like the guy in Sioux Falls.
This guy's like Ocean's 11 to be able to get this and to dump the trucks in different locations and then be able to move the pork products out and then keep going on. Like this had to have had multiple people involved.
Yeah,
how do you I don't know.
There's several moving parts for this to be pulled off, and he managed to get it all taken care of.
How do you unload the pork, you think? Like, what do you do now? You have all the pork. You got it all out of the plant. You were able to execute your getaway with the trucks. Now you just have $100,000 of pork. How do you unload that, you think?
You would think if there's that big of like amount of asset like pork, like obviously I don't know, like how is there no cameras or anything to see the guy doing it if there's that amount of money involved with your product? That's
a question that I feel like there's a lot of questions you could probably ask some of those kinds of places that it's like, why didn't you have better security for this?
So the dumbass of the week candidate should be the owner of
the pork plant that didn't lock up their pork. Hey, if you get a good deal on some ribs, let me know. That's all I'm gonna say. So anybody out there has a good deal on some
ribs. Where is he, Jared? Next week on the camera, he's just eating ribs. Jared, where do we get those?
I'll take you guys down. I'll show you my deep freeze. It'll just be packed full of pork. I got a good deal, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy. I was able to get some good pork. It's really good stuff. They say it's from Ottumwa.
Unreal.
All right, man. It's been fun. We'll hopefully Saturday goes well. It will go well for one of us. Hopefully it's not too dramatic and stress-filled, which I'm sure that it probably will be. But we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks again for Prairie Meadows. Thanks everybody for listening. This has been J-Bo and Jared on Iowa Everywhere.